The birth caul sleeps in tattered folds, thin and conclusive as a fingerprint. 3 months ago, my mother dies in the same hospital where, on November 18th, 1953, she gives me birth. The melanoma sucks its thumb and dreams against her gut. Sometimes it kicks. I pick her up and light is shining through her skull, wrapped in its silvery tissue like a Christmas fruit. I wake her for her feed, scrape meaning from her faint and random exclamations of surprise, spoken through morphia. There is a closure here, soiled nappies gathered to a tidy knot. There is an echo in the Dettol-haunted corridor. The registrar removes the cream cap of her awful fountain pen. Later, cremation, and the curtain trembles. Emptying her council house shoeboxes full of old light, war and buried weddings. There, between the obsolete instruction manuals in a bed of milk token and medal, rests the gorgeous talisman. Frayed bandage wrap, 1919. Permanent finish with no stiffening or dressing, states the tiny label. Postage stamp from some new cannibal republic. My grandmother's birth blood in unlikely carmine stains against blue paper, and, pressed on it in an ochre wax, the caul, rag-edged, a map of lost interiors, first continents. Upon its parchment breath, the log of older tides. This present moment, quivering with chime between the painted arches, under the bulbed canopies above gargantuan quizzing glass. This present moment skewers our attention like a colicked child and will not let us be, will not allow us to be anything but now, but us. The complex human instant with its voices and its fires, glamour of the immediate wherein we are seduced, funhouse of retina, tympanum, tongue and clitoris where we are lost. Each second with its threads of circumstance and implication, shimmering only briefly on the loom of our awareness, how we have arrived, converging through the side streets of our individual histories, where we are. These were the homelands of the Votadini when they blew upon the flames and made the rocks weep iron 800 years before Rome's golden bracelet was upon us. By the year 123 AD, the Emperor Hadrian had banked a massive wall of earth across this northern frontier of the empire, a north-south divide that our more recent conquerors may only dream about, later rebuilt in stone by Severus to stand against 3rd century civil war or gob up sparks beneath the Saxon steel. The wall now lies beneath the pavement at the front face of this building, with its line continued faithfully by Westgate Road. The barrier is submerged, its warning made implicit. Next, 1,000 years of grass, before the garden walls of the Newcastle parsonage rise to surround us. The distant psalms that carry from St. John's across the field. An orchard light. Then, industry. The mills and factories crowd round as though anticipating violence, and the populace expands beyond the limits of its sanitation. In the 1820s, typhoid, each scarce breeze perfumed by sweat and phlegm. A fever district, grounds informed by pestilence and antique slaughter, where, in 1864, this county court is raised, the site passed on from military to church, and, when religion fails, into the hands of law. Outside, the horses walk on cobbles, ringing in the city's burdened, swollen heart. Cars follow, and then more cars. Cyclone flow of noise and fume and coloured steel. The factories are born, thrive briefly, turn to husks as the hand-lettered signs above the shops give way to corporate logo. Knickerbox, pop sock, top shop, the same insignia reiterated. The same fairy ring of names about each city centre, the same architecture, Docklands, Uber alleys, and each town stamped from the same diseased potato in this great and final wallpapering of England. The old county court attempts disdain. Its classic lines refute the century, save for an episode of Spender. Props department anxious to haul out the most worm-eaten 19th century legal tomes until informed they didn't have VAT fraud back then. This is the place we come to end our marriages. This is the market where we haggle for our children. In this present moment, we are either smaller than we were, or else are on our knees. These hollow days, these strangers in the bathroom mirror, flinching and diminished. We have wandered too far from some vital totem, something central to us that we have misplaced and must find our way back to, following some hair of meaning, guided by some ancient blood-stained chart. Someone is judged tonight. Someone is judged tonight. November 18th, 1995, this present moment. It's my birthday, an attractive crown of snow upon a strange hot year that stank of lioness. Lovely, terrible. She dies in August, the prolonged high-pressure front a mirror to my own internal microclimate. Through the parched Northampton streets each day down to the hospital, St Edmunds, a converted red brick workhouse from the 1800s, where my mother's mother dies without regaining consciousness 25 years ago, where I am born, 3 generations caught within its orbit. My mother's name is Sylvia. Her death is animal, passive and dignified, too bright to look at. Later, going through her things, we find the folded caul, a relic of my grandmother that hums with kitchen corner voodoo, its shamanic power immediate and stark, its energies vertiginous. An indrawn spiral plots the tailspin of the DNA across a soiled blue sky. This natal ticket stub provides a way back in. Held to the ear, a rushing of placental surfs, umbilical dial tone, the idling of a secret motor. The birth caul is a bellflower membrane blossomed from the amnion, that masks the infant's head at birth. Its presence is occasional, its purpose is obscure, a vestment signalling involvement in some silent and unfathomable elite, some sect of Trappist embryos who dream the absolute beneath these wan, translucent hoods. Bedroom nativities in red brick terraced huddles with brown paper sheet at hand in case the baby's called. This natal fish wrap indispensable as towels and water in its place amongst the birth accoutrements. Once born, having completed its reprise of our breathless Devonian squirmings onto land, the child is gathered up in paper where the call remains, an ugly petal pressed in an unwritten book. If this is kept intact, the newborn shall not find a watery grave, saved from the fathoms uterine by folded scraps of skin and bandage wrapping, lost in hair-grip puzzled sideboard drawers. In 1500, Piers of Fulham's call is eulogised by Hazlitt, which, as clerkes determine, is right a perfect medicine, both on fresh water and on sea, that Folke shall not drowned be. Men wrapped their luck up in these brine-chewed charts, then put to sail. The women walked their shoreline, reading squall and hurricane into the womb-creased fragments, crisp and firm if he who wore it first were yet alive, becoming limp and flaccid at his death. Its rustlings are the shriek of winch and capstan, the complaint of anchor chains. We cut ourselves to suit the cloth. We cut ourselves to size when first we are delivered to the world's blunt engine. Barely 20, with catalogue shoes and faces not our own, we step out on the shifting funhouse floor. Clumsy at first, but rapidly adopting the requisite compensatory gait. A paraplegic cakewalk almost graceful when offset against the rhythms of society. We buy old cars, new clothes. Are careful not to dwell on those infrequent sinking feelings. First you see it in the skin below the eyes, taut canvas primed for a fresh palette of anxieties for our blue period. Adulthood's chill and endless gallery, a tunnel mouth in front of us. We make adjustments, lips are buttoned. Teenage dream selves past their best before date and become a social liability are quietly put down, buried at night beneath the patio. We work and sleep. We work and sleep. Weekend, unwind and let off steam. Then Monday, waking in the wrongness of the first flat, the first bedsit tentatively individualised, the clipped cartoons and postcards, trails of evidence confirming our attempted personalities across stubbornly unfamiliar walls. With an unnerving ease we are become initiate, adept in all the small and sundry rituals of maturity, the offerings appropriate for two-bar hearth-gods, stacks of shillings for the meter, squinting slot-eyed robot idol, calibrated Richter scowl, and sometimes, on the darker winter mornings, inadvertent Weetabix by candlelight. A freeze-frame cum shot of white wax spills down from orgasm's clear flame towards the smooth jade scrotum of the empty Mathieu's rosé bottle. A despairing stab at ostentation we regretted within days, but left there anyway, as with so much of our new, improvised identity. We mount the stairs, uneasily aware of timer switches clenched like trapdoor spiders on the landings, and anticipate the sudden hobbled blackout. This boil-in-a-bag life where our great adventure founded. Raw-cheeked in the half-light bus queues, we cannot recall our dreams. We work and sleep. We work and sleep. Weekend. Chase parties. Have a beer. Then Monday. There on the adjacent pillow, unself-conscious and unmasked in sleep, the face we're hoping to adjust to. Partner chosen as if for a passing dance. That blend of social reflex, circumstance and need we may mistake for love, and iron pyrites of the heart. A Wendy House compulsiveness in everything, this gleeful mimicry of real rooms and real people. Part of us anticipating the arrival of our parents, come to fetch us home and end the game, but now it's late, and still they are not here. An awful realisation dawns. We lie together on the narrow bed, afraid to plainly state the reason that we cling so tight. The roof is gone. We talk of books and films, and of the hurricane make not the least acknowledgement. Arrange to go for drinks with those few school friends that have not evaporated, dwindling clique of expats from the last decade. Imagine you will know these people all your lives. The last words are inaudible above the jukebox. One-armed bandits roll their eyes, attempting to hold down the force-fed silver. Kiss become as stylised as an autograph. Have sex each Friday, screaming rows each Saturday. We work and sleep. We work and sleep. Weekend. Forget it all. Have fun. Then Monday. And the lathe, the desk, the counter. New vocabularies are absorbed. A brittle language coined by blind industrial process. Glib abbreviations, acronyms. The running jokes become unverbally gale furniture, with jutting innuendos that will bark the funny bone until it snaps. A complex politic of bitterness and envy, weather systems highly localised of cheap ambition, fiscal isotherm, a corridor of stifling heat blown from Threadneedle Street, from Westminster, a fever wind that curdles the behaviour and scatters reason. People we do not respect and yet must be polite to. The humiliations, devastating and yet so obscure as to be undetectable. The lacerating splinters come from plastic fragmentation bombs, invisible to X-ray, but they sting, they suppurate. The big ones take you off below the knees. We stumble, walking wounded from the in tray to the tea tray, numb with disbelief. And when the bandages come off, we do not recognise ourselves, our bruised expressions, our ill-fitting lives. How did we come to be these wraiths in treadmill corridors? What were we before we were this? We work and sleep. We work and sleep. Weekend, a coronary, a nervous breakdown. There is no way forward. We must set the action in reverse. We must turn back the world's blunt engine. The birth caul is a natal shroud that we should no more look upon the face of the unborn than on the waxed expressions of the dead. The human countenance at such extremes of its transition is a fearful, holy thing. A moment of eclipse we may not view save through these necessary filters, lest we are made blind. It is the bridal veil raised for the matrimonial kiss of flesh and spirit, chromosomal vows until death do us part. The broken waters falling like confetti, wedding march of scream and curse along the slippery flooded aisle. The blood bouquet, emerge face first into the flashbulb glare and a congratulatory slap upon the back, a modest notice in that evening's newspaper. It is the net with which we haul the fish out of the gene pool, or the plastic bag wherein our gleaming, gaping prizes come home safely from the fair. Within our book of days, a tissue interleaving spread across the colourful and gory frontispiece. It is the cobweb of the new, the silk discarded in our parachute descent from grace. It is the film on the untasted grape. Our depth flares gutter in the unplumbed amniotic dark as we go down from now to then, from then to how it was before, our secret fathoms. Strange blind shoals of memory that ribbon by with armoured hides and lights upon the brow. The tempo of the pumps and the propellers pulse, the call, our diving bell, so that we shall not drown, despite the shimmering, fatal glamour of the undertow. "17 is like gold, slow and hot in the warm, drunken blur of the crowd, in the heartbreak and sway. And we dream we're the people in songs, suck our cheeks in like film stars with walk-on parts in each shop window we pass. We wear our moods like t-shirt slogans, garish, confrontational, but quickly dated, easily discarded. Everything is possible, a glorious potential deep inside our chests. Nothing's decided yet. We could still turn out to be anyone." And in the centre of the town at night, the burning amber cast marks of the hackney cabs leave smears of light behind them through the dark, and we're in tears again with pain or laughter, neither over anything of consequence, yet both so fierce. We strut the arcades with an air of unrepentant trespass, yet to recognise these curb-crawled warrens as our own estates, and pass out on the last bus home. Hearts on our sleeves and politics on our lapels, we talk the way we dance, self-consciously and without pattern, for its own sake. Boys speak of guitarists, girls of people they know personally. A wall of trivia shored up against the world in lieu of working knowledge, and sometimes, amidst it all, blurted rehearsals for more urgent dialogues to come, the shine and panic in our eyes if we should speak of love. The hand inside the shirt, throat pansies blossomed from the wintry television tan, with someone else's spittle in a diamond slick across our chin, and kisses no less sweet for all the sick and cider. Stomach-turning fairground spin of gland and enzyme, Doppler soundtrack, a fresh understanding of familiar lyrics becomes suddenly profound. Baby, I love you. Baby, I love you. Baby, I love only you. We try to recreate the moves we learned upon the pages that our fathers' paperbacks fall open at. Virginity a thing to be disposed of quickly like the cue in Scrabble. On the nettled shoulder of the river crawling through the park, across the rattling rusted water from the Avon factory's cathedral-lit facade, we shove and sweat and tremble, suck each other's perfumed fingers in the shivering cosmetic glow. Our dual monologues that pass as conversation, our shamefaced concern for the opinion of our friends, and our embarrassed partings when confronted by a mutual incomprehension that's both obvious and absolute. The words are taken back, the scarf returned. Embittered slanging matches that occur nowhere save on some sad and spite-streaked astral plane, until these acid dregs seem almost sweeter than the wine. The diaries we abandon in the first few weeks of March, appalled at this stark evidence of our flat cola lives. The things that we imagine in our lonely beds, the future's icy fingers resting lightly on our knee. We place our faith in radio saints, in heroin stigmatics and the angels of the overdose, their fragile eyes on every bedroom wall. We go down for the third time in our own mythology. A horde of anecdotes become more swollen and less valuable with each retelling. In the least discriminating bars where we affect to like the taste of beer, we catch instalments of an eerie and protracted silent serial unfolded in the washroom mirror. We debate impending social breakdown, solemn and unanimous. Across the room, a chair is overturned. We turn to stare, expectantly. A bubbled silver acne of impractical desire, untested creed erupting in defiance of the world without consideration for its scale, nor horrible duration. Covert, anxious glance across our shoulder, checking if we've left ourselves enough room to back down before the horrors of society, even as we denounce them. Something new appears at the uncertain corners of our smile, which we try not to recognise. As skinny as we'll ever be, reluctantly we tear down all the hopeful pin-ups of ourselves tacked up there in the mind's back bedroom, gradually replaced by studies more composed, more realistic in their expectations. Failing beauty, we make a belated lunge at character. We try to get in touch with who we really are and only get the disconnected tone. A constant sense of someone missing, although everyone is here. The flow of vital youth along school corridors like sheep towards a shearing, frisking, unaware. The real curriculum is punctuality, obedience, and the acceptance of monotony, those skills we shall require in later life. A bleak aversion therapy to cure us of our thirst for information and condition us so that thereafter we forge an association between indolence and pleasure. We confuse rebellion with a hairstyle. Nightmare of the teenage jobscape, suddenly made stupid, weak and clumsy there amidst the calloused adults. Some have been there since they were 14, due to retire in 5 more years and never missed a day. We glimpse the abyss, staring into our discoloured tea break mugs. We have been shown the contract. Now we realise what put that look upon our parents' faces, that fatigued complaint into their voice. We are too old now not to see their failings and too young to understand or quite forgive. Our parents do not follow a traditional perspective, growing smaller on approach. Only much later will their true scale be apparent. Find old photographs with both of them in post-war dance halls that are lit by nothing save the dazzle of men's shirts. Both happy, not much older than ourselves. We grow afraid. 2 weeks before I am expelled from school for dealing drugs, I come across my mother in the street outside St Edmund's Hospital. My grandmother has suffered a collapse, is dying. It is hoped that she will not recover consciousness inside that place, still thought of as a workhouse by the people of her class and generation. Later, going through her things, we find the folded, blood-stained paper and my mother gasps. Within a fortnight it can all fall down. The luminous Wurlitzer palace of our youth. No luck, no school, no happy home. A job down at the skinning yards where men with hands bright blue from caustic dye trade nigger jokes. The tide comes crashing in and sweeps us all away. Walk home drunk through the kiddies' playground, the reproachful creak of an abandoned midnight swing. We wonder briefly if we might be dreaming. A persistent rushing, risen in our ears. The birth call is Exhibit A, admissible DNA evidence that puts us in the frame. The crime remains to be established, charge as yet unformulated, sentence pending. Are we seated with the jury, or behind the bench, or in the dock? A tape is played and a confession heard. These things are seldom pretty. Shreds of proof discovered at the scene of this disturbing incident. A trail of mother blood that leads from room to room across the blue and enigmatic Cluedo board. A woman's screams were heard. The neighbours turned the wireless up and did not interfere. Later, the white and ghostly outline of a human figure sketched in talcum. Here we have the smoking gun. Upon this ragged sheet of paper is a statement, though extracted under grave duress. A mumbled testimony, barely audible, so that we must entreat this sole surviving witness to speak louder and more plainly. They are old. Their story is confused, could fall apart at any moment. The man and woman were believed to be involved, their movements known during and afterwards. A chain of circumstance must be established. Did they have a motive, or is this the tragic outcome of a moment's passion? We must find the body. We must send out men with poles to walk in slow and dreadful rows across the frozen, tinkling moors. We have the wrenching and surprising dream in which we find old toys lost long before, old notebooks filled with our forgotten drawings. Wake up to the realisation that the shapes we saw were not in truth our playthings, only abstract and suggestive forms that had their essence. So it is for memory, with the beloved object gone, and in its place the haunting cipher. Dragged behind the shopping in a cosy push of dark November evening, warm gold light like dripping seeps out through the lozenge window of a butcher's, and we peer with awe upon the treasures of the carnal world. Necklace of burnished liver, the tiaraed ribs on white and gore-dewed jewellers' trays. We are transfixed by a primordial glamour to this antique trade. Mystique accumulates with sawdust in the ancient, unswept corners. On a silver plate, the ritual centrepiece, a massive ox tongue curled beneath our stupefied and disbelieving gaze, rolling saliva smear of highlight, veined and purple underhang, the symbol of our power, of the divide between us and the other beasts, severed and dressed upon this public altar. Language fails us. Reaching for our mother's hand, our fingers close upon those of a stranger. Half-green passageways scented with chalk and plasticine. At schools we shall remember all our lives and dream of. Anxious and puzzled, with the last 2 decades' homework still undone, our uniforms some 20 years too small. Huge moments in those tiny classrooms. Someone made to cry. A spreading lens of piss beneath a straight-back chair. Dominic Allard, 10 years old with an incessant nervous giggle, is called out for laughing, given 6 across his right hand with a ruler drawing blood. Returning to his seat, he cannot see his way for tears, nor can he cease to giggle. Awful in that hushed and frightened room. His sister Avril, 5 years older, wears black tights and a perfume called Midnight Passion. Smugly notices and yet does not acknowledge the mute worship of her brother's friends. Is sat astride her boyfriend's motorcycle when it hits the rear end of a lorry with inadequate wide load lights at 100 miles per hour, doing the ton along the Whedon Road. Playground mythology, our only truth, maintains that she is cut in 2 on impact. Torso there to one side of the road, her perfect legs upon the other, and still conscious, but gone to a beatific place beyond the pain and smiling, an immaculate teen angel, dying there upon the glittering macadam when we loved her. By the school gate, plumed with worsted, wait the sombre flock of mothers. Shuffle, tilt their heads together, passing back and forth their fearful knowledge, bill and keen, commiseration or complaint. They gather by the worn iron crossing barrier, a shepherd presence, bitter to the tongue, that saves the children and lets slip only a few. And there are sweethearts that we never touch and barely speak to, only brush their cardigans whilst filing out from prayers, our passions too significant and grave for kiss chase. Why, their very names are to be loved, charmed syllables that conjure perfectly their perfect presence. In our drinking fountain flow of thoughts we turn them over, and inside our cheeks we whisper them. Angela Bass, profound marine heart, slow finned seraph of the ocean bed. Vivian West, Hollywood sunset of a name, the theme tune rising up to drown the credits. Janet Bentley, name a silvered bonnet mascot signalling the classic English form. We never cross the hopscotch no man's land and catch their sleeve, never approach. We love them and do not imagine that anything further is required. One day we hope to rescue them. The chlorinated echo, share a cubicle, gunmetal grey with an unpleasant chalky smoothness to the touch. An older relative, our first shocked glimpse of pubic hair, both sacred and appalling. Risen orb and flame, the hidden holy animal badge of our kind, worn out of sight like the insignia of a forbidden order, a werewolf Freemasonry from which we are as yet excluded. Cold and wet, we shiver and we tingle. Party to tremendous knowledge of a very few streets, gleaning an intense and different information from the guttered litter, from the scribbled walls that guard the maisonettes, our island territory bounded by a rushing torrent of main road. We map the parks and wastelands, plot the occult spaces no one sees in overgrowth behind the billboard's glib and weathered face. We find the pennies that are lost. They hang me from a tree branch by my wrists with string, and this is how I learned the words. They cave the underground den in on top of me, and crawling like a lugworm through the smothering black dirt, I learned the words. Cornered in dustbin cul-de-sacs, the language of a larger world is on us. We absorb its glossary of smack and panic by osmosis through the skin. Ponder at length a syntax of gut-sick anticipation. Sat at knock-kneed desks, we master an unmentioned alphabet of retribution and approval, become fluent in the lexicon of cross and tick and gold adhesive star, and this is how the tongue is severed, dressed, made fit for civilized consumption. Words we are allowed at home are confiscated. We become aware that the terrain behind our front door is unnervingly unique, become protective of its eccentricities. Appliances we do not have and relatives we do. The names of favourite meals unknown to others, cuisine of an undiscovered pocket nation, pigeon of familiar radio catchphrase, currency of football, pool and weekly co-op dividend, anthem, the Archer's theme, a national dress of pinafore and overall. We walk to school upon games afternoons, clutch our excuse note like a visa. Coat pegs before we can read our names, identified by hieroglyph, the kite, the top, the aeroplane. Already something has been lost, a certain sight, a certain voice. Unable to recall more than the vaguest shape or flavour now as it recedes from us into that speechless fog before we knew the dazzle of the word, when form was all of our vocabulary. The kite. The top. The aeroplane. Birth Caul is our converse, a concealed interior surface to the death mask, faint Turing impression of the fetal squint and scowl. Our destiny is bound not so much within our brow as in this flimsy curtain drawn across it, a mosquito net to trap our earliest, strangest dreams, the web in which our eyelids twitch and struggle. Long before we have the word, before the dressing of the tongue, before society makes us a dummy to its gross ventriloquism, this ripped page is our first text, our only copy of a script from which we must rehearse the world before the velvet draws apart and we go watery-eyed into the footlights of this vast, terrible theatre. Programme that we keep after the melodrama, ghastly souvenir discovered every time we change address. The person who so carefully stored it away become more distant from us, more remote, their values not our own. Significance leaps from it as we watch, nuclear decay, the brief half-life of meaning. Catch it quickly, or it will be gone. We have no other course, though it should lead over the edge of language's flat planet, the world's end of our first sentence. Mute, soft dolls, we are picked up, we are set down. There is a rich, tan dark, perennial above the picture rail. Our every move, our every thought is sorcery. Barefoot, we tiptoe on an endless, scary landing. Upstare one knee at a time in bed stripe, clammy slipper without sock, stand top step up and jump we float in passageway where brown light and the coat's not talking, fingers shush on strokey wall as all the down long way we topple, slow as dandy clock. Wake in rattle bars with all our big and little gone, where poorly moonlight makes a curtain man. Or lean an ugly lot of paper dog from bedside wall, with flowery mouth and snapper eye. A shelfy room with want up past us stretch and grizzle. Worldwood roof of under table, cobwebs pocket up the corner, and a tiny thing about nobody knows live in their years when we have dinner. All big day on little floor in Luke Gray's sniff of spud and hanky boil, or from the laddery cushion pull out easy cottons. Fire dust, snow in knobble-cornered grate where find a threepence ticket and a beadhead pin, or upstand, caterfingers hook in wire guard through the nothing squares. In Firetown is Red Street and crumble up Black House, in where the devil live. And if we bread throw on the fire, he eats it. God is handsome. He moves chairs across his living room up in the rain, and pigeons know him. They see jungles over walls where halfway flower grow out, and man the dad jump up 10 yards for us one pick and give it. Wheel boats drift us through the shops between, and buildings up curb, bump and tip, and chew our leather straps like meat and jumpers. Up picked and down put we are, again, 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 a dummy. Thumb spit, colours little in a bubble, think that we awake, pick foot both up and in the air swim just over a bit the pavement, open eyes and sad we can't, the cupboard house in we forever climb, and granny carpet made of tuft, or one dark kitchen afternoon, already know that we are living long ago, like waistcoat whisker men the light got in and spoiled, or annuals, corner blunt and gone. Just for a peek, thing change if we forget to see it properly. A wrong face startle, and the eye our horrid clever jelly from a bottom sea where we don't know. Bad music on the wireless, out in passage, hide, ears cover until stop it. House row, all with sick long face where scared walk past we can't, and ask woman the mum for go round other way. All of it talk to us, say boo, hello, and play with me. Say boo, hello, and play with me. Us family is mum and dad and gran and Budgie in a cage and other baby, and our furniture who lives we with. Armchairs more warm as aunts and uncles sit in lap of with a hidden biscuit in this only room, and always was, where we are be before, and every thingy-body knows us who we are, and we are us, and all of it are us. It when we want does snow. It when we want does be a Christmas. Dead is birthday party where us cannot get with mumps, but all the time, while goes on everything, not us. Dead is the gardens rainy of the flats we with our mum cut through, and nobody is always there. Day one, grannies be dead, and just to think of it is almost now. Day one is dad and mum be dead, and it is now we cry, and day one is a thing worst that we not can think about, and cry, and it is now. And it is now. The rooms in story drawings are rooms real, in where true people live. In heaven is the Odeon, an upstairs part there only where we dream, and we are on adventure that for being good we win, and everything is best. In magic night sleep we with old wise dog and funny bear for know and listen to, the secret animals who we are friends with first, and wrong treat not, and not must ever never leave behind. One sudden morning, when us first think that we thinking, and before it what we can't remember, in the nothing come from, are us boy from old witch shop, or with else everything here always. There was black, and was a curtain, and sometimes a scent almost we think of, taste forgotten that nearly we hear, dark in our underneath. A long warm noise, like shapes, inside our eye, inside our eye, inside our eye, our eye, inside the birth, the birth caul is, the birth caul is, the birth caul is the honest silence of ourselves. We breathe in water that is warm and luminous and only are. The birth caul is a monstrous bivouac of the impending soul upon the cold plateaus that overlook the world. The birth caul is the street plan of Atlantis, hushed drowned avenues of our beginnings, lost in myth and bladder rack. The birth caul is the newspaper that hides our face while we commute to life, anonymous behind the bloody headlines. The birth caul is the blissful and erotic solitude of us. No sooner have we hands than they're between our legs. The birth caul is sheet music for a symphony sublime and terrible in red notation on a mucus stave. The birth caul is a chrysalis where incubates conceit and miracle, our masterpieces, all our love and death camps. The birth caul is the complex dream we have of nothing when there's nothing else to dream. It is our soul identifying luggage label in the waiting room before they call our name, and being named, we are no more a part of everything. It is the blueprint, costed first and then commenced, from which proceeds all of our vaulted spine and spire, our nave, our crypt and corner, with our stress points already apparent in the tea-stained diagram. It is our flag, the standard that we carry into battle with the world, our gas mask in the flooded trench before we go over the top, the barbed wire hair and deafening roar and sudden flare of light, and oh my God, we're hit, and limp and gory we are gathered up by angels, and it all surrounds us. Self and time surrounds us. It is in our mouth and ears and eyes. This present moment, 18th of November 1953, the lulling body drone between the stretch-marked and translucent arches, under the bulbed canopy above, where vague forms move against the light, the antlered shadows in our cave, cryptic procession, ever winding past. Pull back into the sacred body bag. Pull back the toes and fingers into flippered limbs, and flippered limbs withdraw to torso. We are heads and tails, and it's our call. And it's our call. We dwindle back, unravelling from lizards into fishes down the spiral staircase, back to splash and zygote and conception. The night swimmers thrash towards the ovum's blinding holy beacon. Somewhere, now above, in giant chambers full of thunder and unthinkable emotions, God and Goddess fuck. And there, amidst the sweat and stench of the taboo, is light, uncanny, and profound. The birth caul is the grisly banner left to flutter at our peak, the clear and lucid pinnacle of what we are, before we start our long descent into the memory-shrouding fogs that roil below the cloud line. It is totem of a dream time forfeited, a birth cry songline long since strangled and abandoned in our eagerness to kneel before the world's hallucinations that have bent our backs, that have reduced us, made us separate from what we are. The birth call is a thread of spore, a breadcrumb trail that guides us back down the ape hill to the crotch of valley and the swamp below, the rich black waters and the belly mud, amino acid river and its nucleotide tide, a fast and churning smartphone bearing everything before it, rushing backwards to a source that is abhuman, absolute and utter. A Precambrian driftwood littering its banks, it surges back through dams of category, banked up ocean wall of definition, separating us from other, dashing it aside as if it were no more than words. Another hurdle in the breathless race upstream towards our spawning ground, our secret fountain. In its seethe and boil we are eroded, whittled back to nothing with the layers of what we are fallen away like scales, our core exposed, the raw gobstopper heart of us revealed and glistening, as verse by verse the song unwrites itself back to the word, the syllable, the cold white page. Sex, race, subspecies, species, phyla, class, organism, thymine, cytosine, adenine, guanine, carbon, periodic table, cosmos, bang, and void, the empty room where we are come from, and void, the empty room where we are come from, and void, the empty room where we hear singing, and void, the empty room where is the light from. Where is the light from? Where is the light from? And we hide our eyes, and we hide our eyes, and we block our ears. And the birth call is, and the birth call is, and our lips are sealed